Hey, this is Dylan Fry, the real estate guy, here to be your guy for any real estate needs in the Kansas City area. Today, we are going to be meeting with Josh Marks, and he is the owner of Real Estate Marketing KC. And what they do is we're going to go through and say how you can build a plan to help you market your home and make sure that we can sell those very quickly, and just to talk through some things of what not to do and what to do when it comes to real estate marketing in the Kansas City area. Today, we're here with Josh Marks, and we're going to be talking about real estate marketing in the Kansas City area. Before we get into this interview, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and then also hit that little bell so you'll get notification of future interviews or future neighborhood videos, so that we can help your real estate experience in the Kansas City area be perfect. So let's start off here today. Josh, introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us about how you got into real estate marketing.
Yeah, so I moved to Kansas City in 2018. With my wife and 3 kids at the time. Now we have 4. It was one of those things where me and my wife had done photography for a while.
Yeah.
Family photos, shot some weddings, stuff like that. And then I really liked the real estate photography industry because I discovered that on YouTube, and I was like, wow, this looks like a really cool industry to get into. So we decided to move to a bigger city, which was, we ended up in Kansas City in 2018, and just kind of, started growing it as a side business, and finally grew it into something full-time. So the majority of what I do is the photography, video, tours, drone, stuff like that. But then I also can subcontract out other marketing services. So pretty much I'm a photographer, videographer, and then I have the business where I can bring in other services to kind of help complement that.
Yeah, which is awesome, especially when people are thinking about marketing their house, and or agents are out there and they're trying to market houses, or this is one person that I partner with every single time I'm trying to sell a house, because I know, and no matter what I want to go down, I call him and say, hey, here's what I want to do. Can you do it? And he's like, yeah, let's schedule it for next week or whatever we have to get it on the schedule for. That's an awesome feature. And the knowledge that you have going into how should we market photos, or how should we make houses look, is a huge thing, given having that person there. And I'm big on everybody needs a guy that they can trust, or a gal that they can trust. And that's one thing why I think you would be unique to the Kansas City area, and they should hear more about you, is because you are kind of a one-stop shop for real estate marketing.
Right.
Yeah. So let's dive into a few things that, with you moving here from Kansas City, where did you move from?
Mississippi. We were from Meridian, Mississippi. My wife grew up there. I lived there, ever since I was a kid. So, pretty much grew up there, and then just decided, hey, we need to move to a bigger city, bigger real estate market.
So what made you hone in on Kansas City?
It was one of those things. We were looking all over the place. We were looking at Nashville, looking at places in Texas and stuff like that, and just kind of trying to figure it out. And then my younger brother moved up here, and we're like, okay, what's Kansas City? Now we have a family member that lives there. Let's at least go visit. So we came up and visited, and it was like, hey, this is cool. This is a really cool city. And I did some research on real estate, and I was like, man, it's a good market. So
it's a growing market.
Yeah. And then that's the thing. It's like, the prices aren't ridiculous here, but yet it's still a great market for real estate. And so it's kind of the best of both. Because it's not ridiculously expensive either, so we could actually afford to move here from Mississippi. So it was great. It's a really good city.
Yeah, and a lot of our channel is people watching because they're thinking about maybe moving to the Kansas City area, or they already live in the Kansas City area and they're just trying to find people to help them out in this area. So if somebody's moving to the Kansas City area, what are some things that they should be looking for in photos? 3 things to look for in the photos. Or 3 things you kind of say, hey, these are some red flags when you're looking at photos of real estate photography.
Yeah, I'd say red flag is if they look really, really nice, like overly photoshopped, then it makes you think, okay, what's going on with this? I mean, yeah, the quality photos is good. It should be quality. But there are some companies out there that'll kind of overly Photoshop them, and then you get there and you're like, oh, this isn't what I was expecting. So you got to kind of find that good, like my approach to the photography is I want to make it look like the house in person. Yes, I'm using a wide angle lens. The rooms are going to look big, but that's kind of part of how you photograph the house. But not making it look unrealistically good either or unrealistically bad. It's got to be the best of both. So yeah, you want to kind of look out for that. And then you also want to look out for the ones that don't have good photography at all.
Correct.
Because that could be a hidden gem. I hear some agents that hire me for their photos, they'll have buyers and they'll go look at a house and they're like, man, the photos just did not do it justice. And it was a great house, but nobody knew it. And so we got this great deal on this house. So it's like, so you kind of got to look for both. Like you don't want you got to be a little bit wary if it's like the, overly done. You're like, I wonder, or if it's just really bad, it's like, hey, that could be a hidden gem. You just don't know. So that, you got to kind of look for the good quality photos that are showing the house the way the house is going to be when you walk in.
To even expand on that, when you're looking at selling a house in the Kansas City area or wherever you're selling at, it is good to have good photos because, yes, there's that 10% of people that'll go to those bad photo homes and they may find this hidden gem that, hey, there's something here that is awesome.
Right.
But there's the flip side of that is 90% of the market looks at Zillow, looks at the Realtor.com, all these other real estate platforms, and they look at the photos. And if they don't like the photos, they don't go to the house.
Right. Yeah, because as the seller, you don't want to have that hidden gem. You want to be getting as many people to look at it as possible, where you're like, we want to get people in the door to look at the house. That's the goal with the photos, really. And then getting them there, hopefully they'll fall in love with it, and it'll be the way they thought it would be. So you don't want to have that hidden gem as the seller because you want to have multiple people putting in offers and saying, oh, I want that house. And then, you get into a bidding war and the price goes up. And so,
and that's the entire goal of the marketing piece of real estate is you want to make sure you have as many people in here as possible. Mm-hmm. So tell me a few things that you've seen. I know you probably have some stories of some real estate photography that you've seen. What are some things that you've seen in photos that should possibly be avoided? If you're out there and you're thinking about selling or anything like that, and you're thinking about taking your own taking your own photos, I know we all have iPhones. They take pretty good quality photos, but what are some things that people could do?
Well, and that's the interesting thing about real estate is it's kind of its own niche in photography where you have to know not just how to operate the camera or have a high quality photo, but it has to be taken a specific way. You could have even somebody that is a photographer that knows a lot about photography and can create really high quality stuff. If you don't know the specifics of real estate photography, they'll come out differently than expected. Even just like the specific angles and the height of the camera and keeping everything perfectly level so that nothing looks warped and distorted. That type of stuff, where I see a lot where, agents will walk in and take pictures of their own listings or whatever, and you see that like door frames are kind of slanted looking and window frames and everything just a little bit warped, just simply because that, there's not that specific eye for here's exactly how the photo should be taken to get this. Here's what a room looks like. And it's a kind of a skill that even photographers have to work on to learn the specifics. And then of course, you get the people that, there's a reflection of themselves in the mirror or I've seen a couple of them where it's like the picture of the backyard and there's like the homeowners with their dog, like standing out there. I'm like, you could have at least just said, move. I need to take a picture. So yeah, it's always interesting to kind of look through other people's photos and just see what's out there.
Yeah. Well, and some crazy things that I've seen, and like you see wild stuff all the time, but it's always any toiletries you have in the bathroom or stuff like that, like just shove that stuff in a cabinet.
Yeah.
That one's always huge.
Or toilet seats up. It's like that's a clear sign right there that whoever took the pictures just wasn't paying attention. I've done that like one time that I can remember where I got back from photographing the house and I was editing the photos and I was like, oh my goodness, I left the toilet seat up. And I've never done it since because it was so embarrassing. I was like, I cannot believe I left the toilet seat up. That's like the first thing I do. I go through and turn on all the lights and open windows and close the toilet seats.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a rookie mistake several years ago.
Yeah, and as weird as it sounds, like have anything that's maybe controversial, like put it up. Now, not to say that you can't have your stuff that's controversial, but if it is, and it may eventually turn somebody off on that, the entire goal when I come in and I'm trying to sell a house is I'm trying to sell your house for the most money. So my entire obligation to you is to get you the most return, like the highest net proceeds that we can by the time we're done selling your house.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there's anything that's going to turn away a potential buyer, just put it up. And then like you can have your own opinions, but after you're done with this house, I mean, sometimes there's an emotional attachment that people have to their homes to where they want to know who's going into it and they want to have somebody that's like-minded. And there's those situations. But in the majority of it, nobody cares what happens to the house after they're done. They just want the most money out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get as many people here as humanly possible that may be interested in your house, and let's drive that price up.
Yeah.
So since you moved here from Mississippi, tell me some things. What are some areas that you like in the Kansas City area? What are you and your wife and your kids? What are the favorite things that you guys do in the Kansas City area?
Well, of course, having 4 kids, I love the fact that there are parks everywhere. Like literally everywhere. There are so many parks. Well, the city we're from in Mississippi, I think we had like one local park, maybe a couple, but we had like one that we would frequent. And now it's kind of like within driving distance, there's multiple parks and playgrounds and trails. And it's like I'm up in the Northland, and I love the area because we have so many trails and things. I'm sure it's like that all over the city. I'm still getting to know everywhere, but especially in the Northland, there's trails everywhere. You just like go out and hop on a trail somewhere and you just go walk or do, take the bikes out or something. And there's just parks everywhere. I'm like, with 4 kids, like that's a huge thing. That's been amazing.
When it gives you inexpensive things to do around the city, that's one of the huge benefits of moving to the Kansas City area is there's a lot of affordable things to do in the area. And even there's some things that do cost some money. Like we have the Kansas City Zoo, and you can get a subscription there and go see the animals basically anytime you want, and it's fairly inexpensive for an entire family.
Yeah.
But the parks and being able to just take out and enjoy the nature and everything.
I think that's one thing I wasn't expecting moving here was how much nature there is for being a city. It's like I don't know what the population is, but it's like it's a huge metro area.
Correct.
But there's so much nature. I mean, you drive a few minutes from any major shopping center. Within a few minutes, you could probably be by a cattle farm or at least like a big open area of just grass. And you're like, there's a park right over there. And 2 minutes that way, there's a major shopping center. Like, it's such a cool place.
Yeah, it's very broken up like that.
Yeah, it's like spread out. It's like the best of both. It's like you have the metropolitan lots of things to do, but it's very nature and trails and parks and nature preserves. And I'm like, this is really cool.
Yeah. And that's one of the unique thing about the houses that we have in the area as well is a lot of times, even if you want to be closer to the city, we can find you a house that's maybe sitting on a creek bed or something to where you look out your back window and you've got this timber, but you go out your front and you can hop right on the interstate, get wherever you need to go and get on those roads. So
yeah, and you'll find all these little random homes even in the middle of neighborhoods or very close to a neighborhood, and it'll be like a couple of acres. And I'm like, that's like 3 streets down from my neighborhood where all the houses are packed in. I photographed a house like a few streets down, and it was like 1.5 acres or 2 acres. I'm like, wow, this is like, you don't usually see that in the middle of a neighborhood. But there's all kinds of random, I mean, not just a few minutes away. I've photographed another one. It was like 5 acres right in the middle of a neighborhood. They just happen to have this like huge lot. And I'm like, so if you want land, like you can get it. Like you can get it far away, where you have to drive into town, or you could probably find one of those little hidden things that's like multiple acres, like in the middle of a neighborhood. And it's like, you just don't see that a lot of places.
Well, and you got to jump on those things too, because those are the high ticket items. When you're looking for acreage, there's some neighborhoods that are more specifically, acre to 2 acre, 3 acre lots. And then there's also some neighborhoods to where most of them are 1/4 acre. And then there's this 1 or 2, or this section of the neighborhood that's like 3 to 5 acres and whatnot. So you just gotta know the area very well. And
there was one I did. I was doing drone photos on it, and I forget where it was. I think it was somewhere down south. And evidently the backyard originally was going to be the neighborhood playground. And they changed it at the last moment and just included it with the house. And so it's this random house in this neighborhood with like this gigantic yard. It was because it was going to be the playground, and they were like, nah, we'll just throw it in with that house. And so now they've got this big driveway that was going to be a parking lot, and it's like that was really cool. Whoever gets that is going to be
super awesome for the homeowner.
I know, right?
Yeah. So Tell me some things now. Moving to the Kansas City area, you're pretty new here. What are some things that you don't like about the area?
Things that I don't like about the area.
I love the fact that every time I ask this question, it kind of stumps people.
Yeah, no, I was even thinking about this when I was, reading over the agenda, and I was like, things I don't like about the area. Like, I don't know. Like, I really like it. I don't know that there's a whole lot to not like about Kansas City. I mean, moving from Mississippi to a big city like this, I kind of wondered if there would be some things where I was like, yeah, I don't really like that. But I mean, honestly, it's a great place to live. I don't know that I've got things off the top of my head that I can say I don't like about it.
No, I completely understand. So let me change the question just a little bit. What are some things that you feel like, I don't know how different Mississippi is because I've never lived in Mississippi or anything, but what are some things that you think people might need to prepare for if they're moving to the Kansas City area?
I'd say one of the most interesting things that I've seen, and being here longer and longer, I'm starting to see more of it, is you kind of got to decide what part of the city you want to live in. It's not like, we're moving to Kansas City and you just like move to the city. It's like, well, but what part? Like, there's so many different communities within close driving distance, and each one has their own kind of personality and characteristics, and you kind of have to decide. So if you're moving from out of state, you kind of have to know, like, what part of the city do I want to end up in? Do I want to be in the north? Do I want to be in the south? Do I want to be on the Kansas side? Do I want to be on the Missouri side? Like, and that was something that, we didn't know as in depth when we moved here, but we ended up in the Northland, and it's like, I like it. But we could have very easily ended up somewhere else, and it would have been a completely different experience.
Well, there's different.
That's something you kind of have to know. Moving here from somewhere else is like, it's not just moving to the city. It's like, what part,
Correct. And you have to be able to work with somebody that knows those different areas to get a feel for you and what you're going to fit into and what you're going to like, because different parts of the city offer different stuff. I mean, you go to Northland, you go over to the Lee Summit, you go over to Overland Park, you can be down here in the River Market, you can be downtown in the Kansas City area. Like, it just depends on what you want to do and what atmosphere you're trying to look for. And then you can even go a little bit further out. One of the cool things about Kansas City is everything is within driving distance. And that's one thing I think, especially if you're moving from the coast, we get a lot of people that move in from the coast. If you're moving here from somewhere where you don't have to drive very much, that's one thing you need to be prepared for. You're going to have a car. You're going to have to drive anywhere you want to go because, yes, there is some places downtown to where you could buy a house downtown and then you could walk to everything that you need. But majority of the places you're going to have a 5 to 10 minute drive anywhere you want to go. And then if you get a little bit further out, you're going to be looking at about a 15, 20-minute drive, no matter where you're at.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's hop back to some people thinking about selling. What are some things that, just some stuff that you've seen? I know you've worked with a lot of different realtors. What are some things that you think people that are looking to sell in the Kansas City area that they should do to prep their house?
So prepping it for I'd say photography wise.
Yeah.
One of the things that I see a lot, I think a lot of people just kind of don't really pay attention to it on a daily basis, is just checking all your lighting. Like, just check light bulbs. I've seen multiple times where I'll go in a basement and there's, some random corner where there's one of the lights doesn't work, or even, the chandelier above the dining room table, one of the light bulbs is out, and things like that. It's just one of those things you just kind of don't notice it on a daily basis, but when you go to sell and you go to take the photos, like it kind of shows up in it. I mean, of course, photography is all about lighting and everything. Yeah. So not only are all the light bulbs working, there's only 2 light bulbs working in that 4 light bulb fixture above the mirror in the bathroom, but are they the same color light bulb? Because in photography, that gets really tricky if you're dealing with the different color temperatures of light. So you might have, so you've got the kind of a blue daylight light bulbs. You've got warm white. You've got soft white. So there's like kind of 3 major colors of light.
Correct.
And, I'll see a lot of times where they'll have matching lamps and there's a blue one and an orange one. And it can kind of make the can actually make the paint color look a little bit different because you've got
That's
this.
one of my biggest pet peeves anytime I walk in.
You're downstairs in this basement where there's no natural light coming in, and you've got this one random blue light bulb, and so it makes the wall look green or something, and you're like, So yeah, just double checking the lighting. Just are the light bulbs on? Are they the same color temperatures in each room? To kind of help with the flow of it. It just helps the look of it.
Do you have a preference on which one helps your photos turn out better?
If there's a lot of natural light already in the room, the daylight color can actually help because then you're not having that like hint of orange popping in. But for the most part, if it's like a basement, you're probably actually going to want more of the like a soft white or something. You don't want the daylight. It kind of gives it an odd feel if it's got that blue light in a basement. And there's certain rooms that you want, different colors, and usually lamps can be a little bit more orange than others because it kind of has that calming, orangey, almost candlelight type of lighting.
Correct.
So yeah, but for the most part, as long as the color temperatures are all the same and they're not mixing, then that helps out a lot with the coloring and just kind of getting the photos to look good, and even just the appearance when they actually show up to walk in. If you've got this one random blue light bulb, it's like, what's up with this room? Like everything else is orangey, normal lighting, and then you've got this one random blue light. Like what?
Which it's funny you say that because the first ever house that I went out and did a valuation on, I was training with my broker, and we walked through the entire house, and we get out to the car after we were done, and we had talked to him and whatnot, and he's like, so what things did you notice? And there was a couple things I noticed, but one of the big takeaways I was like, every room has 3 different temperatures in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never referred to it as that, but I'm like, they have 3 different lights in every single room, and it throws off everything. You can't get a feel for what the house has to offer.
And it even, cameras pick up on that actually more than the human eye does, as far as like different color, casts and things. But even just in person, when you walk in, if there's multiple color light bulbs, it kind of gives it an odd feel. Yeah, like you were saying, it's like you kind of don't know what to think of it. And there's even, I think most department stores will have, when you're picking out your paint colors, they'll have a couple of different types of light you can go kind of hold it under. You got fluorescent lighting, you've got LED, you've got different color temperatures. Like the paint color can look different depending on what type of light bulbs you put in there. And if you're just kind of, this is what I had laying around the house and stick it in, like the paint color can look a totally different color.
That is very true. If you are looking at redoing a house, I do encourage you to take your paint colors to the, when you're looking and you're in the department store, whether it's Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards, wherever, they do have that lighting section. And that's actually a really good idea, and I've never thought about it.
Yeah.
Is just take your paint color over there, or take any of your flooring that you're looking at and go hold it under the light that that you're purchasing as well. Because you really want to get a picture. If you're looking to make that house custom made, you're going to be there every single day. You want to make sure that you feel comfortable with how those are going to look every single day, because I've done that. I've put paint in a house and I'm like, the lighting in here makes this paint color look terrible.
Yeah, it makes a big difference because of the color that's mixing with the light color that's mixing with the paint, and then reflecting back is like it can totally change the look of a room. So that's one reason why a lot of lights, like I put recessed lights in our kitchen, and they're color temperature adjustable, and you can kind of set that. I left it as the default because I liked it. Yeah. But that's something to think about. When picking out light bulbs and things, it's like you got to kind of think about how does this room going to look with this type of lighting, and then moving beyond light bulbs even is letting in more natural light. Occasionally, I'll come across a house where there's blankets tacked up over the windows. I guess people that work night shift or whatever, or sleeping during the day, things like that. But before photos and before showings, you got to take that stuff down because people want to see lighting.
I would definitely say some things not to do is not to close off the windows. If you're looking at going into showings or anything like that, that's one thing I do before every showing is go through, open up the windows so that you can really feel what the light is going to bring in, because majority of people want that natural light, and it makes you feel happier. As you walk into a room and there's a ton of natural light, you just walk in and say, oh, this is awesome. Yeah. Like I had a house that I did an open house on. there last month, and when the blinds were down, the house was a little bit gloomy. But the first thing I did was open those up, and it's got 4 big full wall windows, and all that natural light comes in there, and then you're like, oh, this house is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, and you could sit in here, and and it had a nice view. We're talking about the nature. It had a nice view of the timber area, and then you've got this big bay window bay windows that are giving you tons of natural light. It was perfect. Mm-hmm. Like, then you don't have to have as much lighting in your house, because I noticed that was one reason why the house felt dual, is because they didn't have very much lighting, but it's because they had a ton of natural lighting.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, once you let that natural light in, you're like, wow, this changes the look of the home. Yeah.
Correct. Okay, so tell us a little bit. I know you talked about you do some subcontracting. So what are some other things that if people are looking at marketing their house, or maybe agents out there are looking for somebody to help them market their house, what are some other things that you guys offer?
So we could come in, before the photographer shows up, before I come in and do the media, the photography and the video, I could have somebody come out and clean the home, get it clean and ready to go. Because there's things that'll show up in pictures and showings that, again, you just don't notice on a daily basis.
Correct.
Ceiling fans get really dusty, and most of the time they're on if you're using your ceiling fans, and so you kind of don't notice that. So you stop them for photos, and you're like, oh my goodness, there's like, it's covered in fur, whatever. Like it's grown, but it's like just cleaning those off and just having somebody that can come in and look at all that, get it all cleaned up and ready to go, and cleaning the bathroom mirrors, so in the photos you don't have streaks on it, right. With the light, the light hitting it from above the mirror, and then, taking the photo from a specific angle, you kind of see those streaks. So having clean mirrors and stuff like that, and the lines in the carpet that make it look freshly cleaned, things like that. And then having a stager come in and just say, hey, let's move this over here. It'll look better in pictures and showings. Yes, when you're living there, you want it to look a certain way and feel a certain way because you're used to where everything goes in your own home. But for visually pleasing photos and being inviting when someone comes in to look, you might need to move a couple of chairs or a sofa or even put some things away. And having an expert that can come in and say, hey, let's get rid of this chair. Yeah, like I'm sure you sit in that all the time, but let's put that one in the garage for showings and for photos because it kind of feels crowded. And having that person that kind of has that eye for that. So being able to bring in a stager, I'm not an expert on the staging and how to get the entire house looking perfect, but but having somebody that can come in and do that. So when I show up to take the photos, I'm just showing up and taking the photos like I'm supposed to. So those type of services. And then afterwards, after photos, being able to have somebody that could, potentially for a realtor to be able to say, hey, I need some social media graphics made. Well, I've got people that can, that could do that. Or having maybe it's above and beyond the pictures and the video and everything. And you're like, well, this is a listing. We really need a 3D scan on this one, like an actual walk through 3D tour. Well, I have somebody I can hand that off to that's got all the equipment to do a 3D tour, and they can come in and do a scan on those types of houses. And just say, let's kind of kick this up to the next level. Sometimes, most of the time, photos and video and drone are kind of the different levels of things. But some houses, you just kind of need that experience, especially the ones that are going to attract buyers from out of state. People moving down from Vegas or moving out here from California, they're not physically coming and looking at most of these houses. They're going to find it online, and then they're going to go look at it the best that they can, and having every option available is if you can literally click and walk through the entire home in 3D, that's a good selling point for some price points.
Yeah, no, having those 3D tours when you get up into those more luxury homes, that is a huge benefit. They know what they like, and being able to go through and seeing that is huge. They're able to see that, and then they are able to make decisions on, hey, do I actually want to come see this or do I not? Mm-hmm. Because it's a huge waste of their time if they don't end up liking the house. The other thing I would say, to go back to your stager, is there, and why I think that's such a huge benefit is I believe there's two types of people. There's one that can see past your stuff, and there's majority of the people that can't. So you always have to cater to the people that can't, because again, we are trying to get the most money out of your house when we're selling it. And we want to get everybody in here that can potentially make an offer on the house so that we can drive the price up.
Yeah.
Because that's the end goal.
And the stager that I use is very detail oriented.
Yeah.
And it's a huge difference when she can go through and give them a checklist and say, okay, here's what you need to put away. Here's where you need to move things. And then going in, it's like the home is perfect the way it should be. You know, not to live in it. I mean, that's not the point of having a stager. But to walk in and go, this is a cool house.
Correct.
That's kind of the point. And just having that expert that can come in as the outside pair of eyes that can come in and look at things and say, okay, you need to do this. You know, you need to move that. Let's simplify some of this stuff. Maybe there's a wall full of family photos. And it's like, let's simplify that, maybe put up a piece of art. Let's put some of this away, and just kind of having that person that can say, here's what buyers are looking for when they come into your home. They don't really want to see your family all over the walls. They want to be able to picture their family there.
Correct.
So just knowing what pieces to put away. Okay, maybe that picture's fine to leave out. Let's put this huge mural wall full of photos. Let's put that away. You know, just kind of that expert to come in and just kind of, like you said, being able to make it to where the people that can't look past your stuff don't see your stuff. They just see furniture and a livable home.
Correct. And that's a huge part, is if you're looking at that. And something that I would encourage anybody, if you're looking to sell or you're looking to this area and you're looking at things, don't get offended. Like where you're talking about that stager has a professional opinion. We do this on an everyday basis. You're taking photos every day. I'm helping people buy and sell houses every day, and the stagers they're staging homes every day. We get to see what people want and how they're responding to different things. And so back to it. It's a professional opinion. Don't get offended.
Yeah.
Because that is the biggest. It's not because we're saying, hey, all your stuff is crap, put it away. Mm-hmm. Well, we're coming in there to say, hey, again, we're trying to maximize your profit, and we want to make sure that we put you in the best foot forward. And that's our professional duty, is to say, hey, this is how we need to market this home. Mm-hmm. We need to put away those photos. We need to clear off that countertop. We need to put your laundry in the closet. Move some stuff out to the garage. That's the one place where everybody asks me, like, do I need to clean out the garage? I'm like, no, you got to have somewhere to go with your stuff. People understand that. Mm-hmm. They're not looking in the garage to say, oh, how am I going to make this livable? They're looking at the house that way.
I've had a couple of garages that have needed photos where it's like, wow, this is like part of the house. I mean, that's a selling point, but in almost every case, you can see how many garage doors you have from the outside photos. I don't need pictures inside the garage. So that's pretty much your free for all, put everything you don't want in photos in the garage.
And I prep every buyer when we look at houses and they're like, oh man, this garage is packed full of stuff. And I'm like, well, you got to remember, these people are still living here. Mm-hmm. Like, they have to have somewhere to go with their stuff. And anytime you buy a house and you go to move, and that's one thing, if you're looking to move to the Kansas City area, potentially, like, figure out how much stuff you have, because that's one thing that you never realize how much stuff you have until you go to move.
Yeah.
Yeah. And every time you move, you're like, into a bigger house, you're like, oh, I would never fill this place up. And then you go to move out of that house, say you downsize, or you go to a similar house, and you're like, how are we going to fit everything that we bought over the last couple of years that we've been living here? Yeah. That's one thing. It's a recurring theme, is everybody's like, I didn't realize how much stuff I had accumulated.
Yeah. Like when we moved up here from Mississippi, we lived in a tiny little ranch home, like 3-bedroom. It was tiny. And we went to move, and we were getting rid of things and thought, oh, yeah, we downsized really good. I got the biggest Penske truck I could rent and filled it, and then put a trailer on the back with pulling one of our vehicles, and filled the vehicle with boxes and stuff. And we still left a few things behind. And I'm like, I did not know we had this much stuff. I thought we did a great job of downsizing before we moved. And then we moved into to our house that's a little bit bigger. And it was like, oh, we still have to get rid of some stuff to be able to park in the garage because I'm not buying a house with a 2-car garage and not parking in it. So we
you see a lot.
Yeah. So we got rid of a lot of stuff, but I was like, man, we should have downsized a lot more. And yeah, like you said, you don't realize how much stuff you have until you move. And then you're like, where did we get all this stuff from?
And anytime you have kids, that's one of the big things. Like, I encourage you, if you do have kids, move to the Kansas City area because there's so much stuff to do. But anytime you're moving with kids, you got to think, like, the amount of stuff that kids accumulate from family and gifts and different stuff like that. And you're just like, oh, my gosh, it's a lot.
Yeah.
We got a birthday party this weekend. Our 2 boys, they're right around the same, so we do them together. And I'm like, just thinking about it, I'm like, oh, my gosh, they're going to get different random stuff, whether it's toys or books or clothes or anything. But I'm like, they already have so much stuff they don't need anymore.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
As a parent, it's kind of funny because it's one of those things like I don't like that things are made so cheap nowadays. But when it comes to kids' toys, it's like, I think I'm okay with stuff breaking after a couple of days because then it gets thrown in the trash and it doesn't clutter up the house anymore.
That's one of the happiest moments as a parent.
I know. It's like, oh, man, it broke. Oh, I guess we'll throw that away. And you're like, yes.
Yes. Oh, you broke that toy 2 days after Christmas.
Yeah.
Here you go.
But, yeah, it's disappointing that that things are so cheap. But, especially with 4 kids, it's like we have multiples of everything.
Correct.
And so it's like, yeah, I'm sure if we were to move anytime soon, we would have to get rid of a lot of stuff because now we have a bigger house and we've already filled it and we have one more kid than we did then. So
and now I'm going to ask you a more personal question. How was that jump going from 3 to 4? Like, because I'm about to go from 3 to 4 kids and I'm a little nervous because I'm like, Jesus, they're everywhere.
I think actually the hardest transition is probably from 2 to 3.
That's what I've heard.
Because if with only 2 kids, it's like, okay, I have one, she has one, and then we'll, swap, and we each have 1 kid. And then it's like, then you have the third, and it's like, okay, so who's watching the baby while we're dealing with the 2 toddlers? Especially ours are all really close in age. All of our kids are 2 years apart. So that was kind of an interesting dynamic because like even the older kids are still young enough to where you kind of got to keep an eye on them. And then it's like, going shopping or, walking through a parking lot. It's like, okay, now we can't just be like, okay, I'll take this one, you take that one.
I'll take this one, and I'm potentially holding this one.
Because the baby's going to just run off. So you definitely have to have the hand on that one or probably holding, and then a hand over here and then a hand there. And then you have got the diaper bag and all, it's like, oh, this is more challenging than just one each,
Yeah. Well, and that was my biggest fear when we went from 2 to 3 was, like, okay, if I've got my eyes on one, then I can get my eyes on the second one. But the thing with kids is like you got your eyes on one and then you add this third one. So by the time you do your progression, and I'm with being in coaching and a lot of different stuff in the sports world, I go through progression. So I see, okay, first kid's good. Mm-hmm. Okay, second kid's good. And before I could go back to the first kid. Now I go to the third kid, and by the time I get to the third kid, the second kid's off doing something else, and the first kid, I got to check on them, but I don't know where they're at.
Yeah,
and it's just
it's
wild.
Like everywhere you go, like we'll go to a park, and you have to kind of like take a quick mental note. Okay, what's the kid wearing?
Yeah,
what's each kid wearing? Because I have to be able to glance around the park and within a few seconds and think, okay, that kid's there, that kid's there. Okay, 2 of them are over there.
Yeah,
and then they'll take off a jacket or something. You're like, where'd they go?
And they're sitting right
because I was looking for a blue jacket and the blue jacket's gone. Oh, okay. They took the jacket off.
Yeah. So. I've had the same situation with my wife. She's like, he's right there. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. We changed shirts. So I didn't know where he was.
Or I cut his hair yesterday. He looks different. So that's always fun.
Yeah. It's always interesting when you get into and I'm not going to lie, it's a little nerve wracking having the fourth one. I'm like, oh, what's going to happen? But it'll be awesome. Kids are awesome. That's the most amazing thing about, I think, owning our own businesses and me being in the real estate. It gives me the opportunity to be there. And I know you with having your real estate photography business, that's one huge thing that's a benefit to you guys as well, as you get to be home and be with the kids a lot. So real quick, before we get into this, and I appreciate you coming on because it's been awesome and we're able to help people. My entire goal with this channel is to educate people, whether they're buying or selling in the Kansas City area, help educate them so that if they're doing that, they at least have a perspective of how they can accomplish their goals. Whether it's using me or not using me, I'm giving them everything they can to do it themselves or to find the people that'll help them do it as well. So I appreciate you coming on. So say I'm a new realtor or a new person that's selling their home and they came to you. Give me your elevator pitch. What do you got?
I'd say that it's not just about getting each home sold. Yes, that's a big deal, especially as a new realtor. I actually really enjoy taking on new realtors that are kind of, fresh out of taking the class and everything. They're like, how do I do this? It's not so much about, I need to sell this one home. Yes, that's a huge, big deal. But it's also, as the realtor, it's like, this is your brand. And if you have some listings that you're like, I'm not going to hire a photographer, I'm just going to go in and kind of take photos of this one and then sell it and all that, it says something about your brand. And just being able to say, no matter the price point, I have a photographer that comes in. I mean, I'm sure there are some instances where a home's just like, even good photos is not going to help this one, So I'm not going to say it as a blanket statement, but it does do something for your brand to say, I don't care if it's an expensive home or a inexpensive home. I have a photographer that comes in. This is my marketing plan as a realtor, and this is what I do, and that's going to get you future clients, not just sell the home that you have that you're trying to sell, but it's going to get you future clients.
Well, and if you have an image that you want to build, you're getting into real estate and you're starting your career, I think that is the first thing that you need to focus on. Mm-hmm. What image do you want to be out there for yourself?
Yeah.
Because if you want to be that realtor that gets your friends and family and whatnot, and you're constantly going down that path, and maybe you're selling houses in like you just through networking, it's different. But if you really want to create an image, I would encourage, it doesn't matter on the price point, like the additional add-ons, like whether we do a 3D tour or we do a video. But the first thing you should do, I mean, if you're good at taking photos and you can get professional quality photos yourself, then by all means do them yourself. But if you can't, and I know I can't,
right? I think those people usually know who they are. Like
Correct.
The people that are like, I have no idea how to take pictures.
I would never want to.
So.
But I want that image. It doesn't matter whether it's a $50,000 house. Like, I mean, we've had that. And like, I want anytime somebody looks at something that Don't Fry the Real Estate Guy puts out there, it is quality.
Yeah. You would be surprised how much quality photos can help a listing.
Correct.
It's kind of amazing. Like you think
more eyes on it.
You think, okay, well, iPhones take good quality photos, but having the person that knows what they're doing take the photos makes the difference. I went and I had a first-time client. This was several months ago, and her listing sat for, I think it was over 60 days or something, which was odd for last fall and into the summer. Like that's not normal. Usually they're selling pretty quick.
Correct.
Called me, said, hey, the client wants to have a professional photographer come in and do the pictures. I did the photos, and then it was 6 days later. I was like, I should check in and see how that listing went. I don't know how quickly she got under contract, but within that 6 days, I texted her, and she's like, oh, yeah, we got it under contract. It's sold. And it had been sitting. It's like, it was that hidden gem. It was that house that's like, nobody's coming to look at it. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's on some acreage. But just having somebody come out and take good quality photos and get those drone shots on it, it went under contract within a week.
Correct. Well, and you'd be surprised. I mean, some agents are in the office, but we're all in group chats and different stuff like that. And if there's things out there that are like bad photos, or you have that guy in the mirror, I know it is always a topic point amongst agents. They're like, I'll check this one out. This just went up, because we're looking at houses every single day, so we get really good at reading photos. And you see them, and then you're like, I got to send this to so and so, and then you don't want to be the nickname house.
Yeah,
like you don't want to be, this is the one that has the guy standing in the mirror, or this one had all the toilet brush was sitting right there on the counter, or different stuff like that.
Yeah.
You don't want to have anything that negative in your photos. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming out. And if this is your first time to the channel and you're looking to either move to Kansas City or you're looking to sell something in the Kansas City area, we're going to give you all the education that you need to help you make good decisions in that market. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button to the channel. Also, if you got some value out of this video, hit that like button, and then also hit that little bell so that you'll get notification of our future interviews so that we can help you on your journey to the Kansas City area. Again, this is Josh Marks with Real Estate Marketing KC. If you're looking to sell in the area, I encourage you to reach out to them and ask them about their photography and their other options they have. Thank you all for joining us on this week's weekly interview.